Hello guys, Dan here from Inner City Scooters, and today here I have the Talaria MX5 or the Talaria Sting Pro. I prefer to call it the MX5 because it's easier. But yeah, I'm going to be doing an unboxing. Let's take it out of the box. Obviously the charger. Believe it or not, it's my first time unboxing this bike, so I'm surprised. So obviously front wheel. We have our handlebars. So obviously we have the front mudguard. So the front mudguard is going to be bolted here. So I reckon the bolts are in the box. These are the handlebars here. So this is your light switch and your horn, and this is your display here, the throttle, your brakes, and this is the other brake. So I'm gonna attach this. Do you know what? I love this bike. I love how well packaged it is, you know, like it's just so secure. Coming all the way from China to Europe to here. Look at it, not a scratch on it. It's honestly so nice. This mounts the handlebar to the actual bike, to the actual forks. So I'm gonna throw this on now. This ring here goes on first, then this piece here, and then this will go on last. I'm just putting everything in position right now, then I'm going to tighten everything down. Boom. And this, there it is, the front part for this. So obviously when the handlebar goes on, it's going to have to go on like that. And we have the keys in this bag, like so. Boom. Usually I don't tighten it all the way in, I just tighten it enough so that it can be in position. And then obviously towards the end I usually like to tighten everything up. And then boom, same thing here again. Put the bolts in, but I'm not going to put them in very tight, just so I can, you know, adjust it. But I'm going to put it in place, putting these together, you know. I like to make sure that it's because once it's put together, it's not going to be taken apart. So it's actually very important that it's put together right the first time. What I want is, I want it to be center, you know, just so that when you're driving it, it's not like a bit to the right or a bit to the left. You want it to be center, you want it to be perfect. So once that's locked into position, I use the center locking nut, tighten that. And once I'm happy with the position, I'm gonna lock it in officially. Boom. You don't wanna over tighten it, you just wanna tighten it to when it stops going in, you know. So that's the handlebars basically put on in place. Now remember this left brake lever that I said we're gonna get back to. Well, now we're gonna put it on correctly and make sure that, yeah, that feels quite comfortable. Happy enough with that, to be honest. And obviously this connects the top of the bike to the controller, which is over here, and the battery, which is here. So these are directly connected to the controller. So obviously we're looking at 3 wires. So we're gonna put, this is for your brakes. So these are your brake sensors. A lot of people prefer them off just because they're very sensitive, but I like to leave them on because I think they're safer, to be honest. Fairly straightforward. It's green here, so there's no messing about. And there's obviously 2 little arrows. So you wanna make sure that you're plugging it into the arrows, because if you don't, you might end up bending the pins. And if you bend the pins, it's a long thing. It's a long day. So let the arrows line up, like so. And then obviously you're gonna connect your brake sensor, like so. And I'm gonna do the same on this side. So this is for your screen, your display. So what you wanna do is, like so. And you want to do this like so. So obviously in the box here we have the pegs. So that should go in there. It threads on nicely. Gonna do it by hand at the start. And it's the same thing on the other side as well. Now we have the pegs on, we have the handlebars on, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean up the wiring. Here. I'm gonna start off and put one here. Just try it down. I'm gonna put that there. I think there is a perfect place for it. I'm gonna thereabouts there. And then like so. So that really just kind of makes everything really neat, to be honest. We have some gear oil. So when you're building the bike, you don't need to put any gear oil into it. The gear oil is already in here. This is more so just for the next maintenance. The next maintenance, you're gonna have to replace the gear oil. I think it gets replaced at 700 kilometers. And then we have some cable ties. This is to put the front plate on. So I'm gonna throw the front plate on now. Make sure you don't have bad knees. I don't have bad knees, so I can crouch down. It loops in like so. We're gonna throw this on. So yeah, I like the way that's sitting though. I like it, you know. Just make it a little bit loose, just so that if there's any errors, we can come back and correct it without any hassle. Lock it into place. So that's locked into place. And once it's all locked into place, we are going to cut the rest of the cable tie off. Boom. Do you know what? Like, what a fantastic piece of engineering, you know. I love this bike. Smells fresh. But you know, these are big chunky 4-piston brakes, so it will give better stopping power, and the discs, the pads will last longer. And even looking at the disc here, it's very thick, you know. It's about maybe, I'd say, 1 millimeter thicker than usual. So I love the thick discs, because it's a big issue with the other versions of discs wearing down very quickly, things like that. But even just having a closer look at it, it's got thicker spokes as well. These spokes are definitely way thicker than the other versions of the Talaria. But before we put the front wheel on, we're gonna put the mudguard on. And let me not forget this little rubber cap. This little rubber cap goes over here. So obviously the little rubber cap here, it's not too important, but it makes it look really flawless, you know, seamless. And you know, a nut and a bolt, a nut can be considered a seam. So putting that rubber cap on just basically makes it look seamless. That's really what it is. Last screws that was provided in the bag, and the last screws are for the mudguard. So I'm gonna need a size 4, which I do have, and it comes with some washers as well. I like to put the screws on the washers so that when I'm putting it on, it's not like I'm not fiddling with it and my hands are like, bleh. So drop that on like that. Slap it in one of the 3 holes, and just do. And like the rest of them bolts, I'm gonna do it nice and lightly, and then at the end, I'm gonna come back and do it really tight. 100%. So boom. So let me just make sure. It looks pretty solid to me. Pretty happy with that, to be honest. I'm gonna put the front wheel on next for real. These are our axle blocks. So not axle blocks, they are spacers. You can call them axle blocks, you can call them spacers, whatever. So I'm gonna take my size 5 Allen key. I'm just gonna loosen it. Don't even take it all the way out. As you can see here, the gap is gotten wide, and we should just be able to bang the axle out. I'm gonna lift this bike off this wooden crate. Obviously this wooden crate is just for transporting. This wooden crate is no more any use. So we're gonna put this bike on the bike stand so that we can put the front wheel on. And if you're not confident holding the bike by yourself, I advise 2 people. So have the bike on there, make sure it's balanced nicely, and then you can lift the bike up a bit. 3, 2, 1, boom. So now that our bike is in the air, you wanna make sure that it's nice and stable. For me, that is pretty stable, to be honest. I'm happy enough with that. Don't get caught out with this little piece of plastic. That just basically holds the brake pads away from each other. It's a bleeding block, really. And we're gonna put our front wheel on. So, as we're putting our front wheel on, obviously, these are our spacers, or you can call them axle blocks. So you slap them in there. Make sure it's in nice and snug. Same again on the other side. Make sure it's in nice and snug. Once it's in, you take your axle. So I removed the axle earlier. And with this axle, you want to make sure you put it in the right way. So for me to put it in the right way, this chunky part is going to be on this side. So obviously you have to put it in going from this side. So I literally just put it in here. And then I put the disc into the brake. So you want the disc to be sitting in the brake. And then you want to do a bit of lining it up. So make sure it's all lined up. And then this should go into that hole. Just slot straight across. You might have to just jig it a bit just to make sure that it goes all the way through. It's gonna pop out the other side. And then that's that fitted. So obviously, now that that's in there, obviously you need to tighten it up. So I'm gonna take this nut, put this nut back in. Obviously, I'm not gonna use my size 6, I'm gonna use my size 8 Allen key. This does basically is it tightens everything together, keeps everything nice and tight. So once that's in, that's tight. I know there's no space in here, so I don't want any space in here. Because there's a space in there, the wheel's gonna be like, and you don't want that. So once that's in, we're gonna tighten our axle nuts. in it nice and tight. We want to put these on all the way because we still have another one to put in. And then over here, there's one more that goes in. And then this goes in like so. Like so. And it's still loose, so we can still adjust it. And then the same thing again on the other side. Less all this. Before obviously I let it go, I want to make sure that the back brake is not rubbing. I'm just going to adjust that because it's rubbing ever so slightly and it shouldn't rub, to be honest. So I'm going to get my size 5 Allen key. I'm not going to remove them fully. I'm just going to loosen them enough that I can adjust it. Hold it there and then tighten it back up. Boom. That's much better. And then give it a quick inspection, see if I missed out anything. And oh, see, that's why it's good to inspect your bike. There's oil inside this motor, inside the gearbox. It's called a gearbox gas vent clip. So you need to unclip it. I'm gonna tighten these pegs. Careful when you're doing this because there's a wire here which is for the stands, the stand sensor wire. Just be careful you don't nick it. So visually the bike looks ready to drive. However, there's a few things we must do before we actually take the bike out on a spin. So as you can see, the back wheel is flat and we're gonna pump it. So obviously you want to check the chain, make sure the chain's not too loose or too tight. If it was too loose, too tight, you need to start adjusting the hair, but 9 times out of 10 when it comes out of the box, that's always not an issue. Turn the bike on. Right now, so obviously you press the start button here and then you're good to go. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was very informational for you. I hope you learned something new. And yeah, this is gonna go to a nice new customer. Thank you for watching this assembly. In terms of hardness, I'd say it's a solid 5. It's not too hard. Obviously it's not straightforward, but watching this video, I hope I made it straightforward for you. And if you're buying this Talaria MX5 from us, good luck with it. And even if you're buying it elsewhere, it doesn't matter where you buy it from, good luck. And make sure you drive safe, wear a helmet, and don't fuck about on the bikes.